Acquiring a business? BizNexus simplifies it. Access thousands of updated opportunities in our DIY marketplace or supercharge team sourcing with OmniSource, your all-in-one platform for on-market, off-market, and coming-soon deals. Scale smarter today. Learn more or book a demo at www.biznexus.com.
Disclaimer from the always present legal team. Podcast conversations don't necessarily reflect the views of BizNexus Incorporated. Everything you hear is informational news and updates from around the industry. We're not recommending any investments. We're not offering any investment advice. Be sure to do your own homework.
Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive.
Yeah.
Today, we're going to be looking at something that I think is pretty interesting.
Okay.
Mergers and acquisitions in Cambodia.
Right.
And specifically, we're going to be focusing on the lower middle market.
Okay.
So kind of those businesses that are, bringing in maybe like $5 to $50 million in revenue.
Gotcha.
And to guide us through this, we have a really great report.
Cool.
From KPMG Cambodia Ltd.
Okay.
And this report was published in 2022.
All right.
But I think all of the insights are still very relevant today.
Sounds good.
So I think we'll have a lot to talk about.
I think so.
So maybe we could just start by talking about why Cambodia is kind of attracting this global attention.
Sure. Yeah. I think it's really interesting to kind of see Cambodia emerging as like a place for M&A activity.
Mm-hmm.
And as you mentioned, like the lower middle market, that's really interesting. Because I think a lot of the time people think about M&A, they think about these massive companies, billions of dollars.
Right.
And
huge valuations.
But like these lower middle market companies, they're often like the backbone of an economy,
Yeah, exactly.
And really drive a lot of the growth. So
yeah, and that's a really good point because it's like if you're looking at where the tide's going to go,
right,
you don't want to just look at like the top of the wave. You want to look at like
the current underneath.
Yeah. So, I think that's really fascinating.
Yeah. And speaking of those currents, this report highlights this really interesting thing.
Right.
Back in 2019, KPMG did this global CEO outlook survey.
Okay.
And what they found was that almost 3/4 of U.S. CEOs were looking at expanding into emerging markets.
That's a big number.
Yeah. So, I mean, that kind of shows you, like, this is a real trend that's happening.
Yeah, for sure.
And when you consider that 85% of those CEOs were prioritizing countries involved in China's Belt and Road Initiative.
Oh, wow.
It kind of paints a clear picture
that
Cambodia is right in the center of that.
Yeah.
So it's not just a passing trend. This is like a strategic shift.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And I think that that's one of the reasons why it's so important for people running businesses in Cambodia to understand M&A. Yeah. Because you might be a target or you might be looking to acquire.
Exactly.
And so this is just something that's really important to understand.
Got to know the landscape.
Got to know what's going on.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe we could take a step back for a second.
Okay.
And just talk about like what M&A actually is.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people, when they hear M&A, they think about like Wall Street and Gordon Gekko and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
But what is it really, and how does it apply to these smaller companies?
So at its core, M&A, it's really just about companies coming together.
Okay.
It can be a merger where it's kind of like two equals joining forces, or it could be an acquisition where one company actually buys another.
Okay.
So it's kind of like a strategic partnership, but with way higher stakes.
Yeah, for sure.
And when you're thinking about the lower middle market, things can get a little bit more personal.
Okay.
Because you're often dealing with like the owners who are very involved in the business.
Right.
So the whole process of, negotiating and doing due diligence can be a little bit more streamlined, a little bit less formal.
Okay.
Than you would see with like a massive corporation.
So it's almost like a family business.
Exactly.
It's looking to expand.
Yeah.
Or to be acquired.
Exactly.
Rather than like,
It's a
big corporate giant.
Yeah, corporate giant gobbling something up.
Right, exactly.
And because of that, that personal touch.
Yeah.
It often means that when you're looking at the valuation, there's more emphasis on what they call the owner's discretionary earnings.
Okay.
So it's really understanding like the true cash flow that the owner's taking out of the business.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they're running some personal expenses through the company, things like that.
Gotcha.
So it's kind of getting a clearer picture.
Yeah, it's like looking behind the curtain a little bit to see how it actually works.
Yeah.
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 Okay, so we've got these lower middle market companies that are either being acquired or acquiring.
Right.
I guess now let's talk about the different types of mergers.
Yeah.
Because this report mentions, horizontal, vertical, concentric conglomerate.
Yeah, it's a whole bunch of them.
Yeah, it's a lot of different types.
Yeah.
Are any of these like more common in Cambodia?
Well, it really depends on the industry and what the companies are actually trying to do.
Okay.
But let's take an example.
Okay.
Let's say we've got a bakery
that's
looking to grow.
Right.
They want to kind of dominate their region.
Okay.
So in that case, a horizontal merger might make sense.
Okay.
Where they combine with a competitor.
So two bakeries in Phnom Penh decide to come together.
Exactly.
Right.
Suddenly their market share is way bigger.
Right.
They have more buying power for ingredients.
Gotcha.
It's a real...
So it's kind of a recipe for success.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, cool. What about vertical mergers?
Yeah. So
Do we see that in like a food industry?
Definitely.
Cambodia.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's imagine that same bakery.
Okay.
But instead of merging with another bakery, they decide to acquire a flour mill.
Oh, wow.
Or a sugar plantation.
Okay.
So now they're controlling their supply chain.
Right.
They have more control over pricing.
Mm-hmm.
They're ensuring that they have a steady stream of those key ingredients.
Yeah. It's all about efficiency.
Yeah, and that's really important.
Yeah.
Especially in the lower middle market where margins are often tighter.
Right.
You need to control those costs.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got horizontal, we've got vertical.
Uh-huh.
What about concentric mergers?
All right, so concentric mergers, these are a little more niche.
Okay.
But let's stick with our bakery example.
Okay.
Imagine that bakery decides to merge with a tea house or a coffee shop.
Okay.
So they're still targeting the same customer,
right,
but with different products.
Yeah.
So now you can come in, you can get your pastry.
We get your coffee or your tea.
Exactly. It's like a one-stop shop.
Yeah.
And it expands their revenue streams.
Right.
You see this a lot with businesses related to tourism in Cambodia.
Okay.
Where it's all about creating that complete experience.
Gotcha.
For the visitors.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And then you've got this kind of wild card, the conglomerate merger.
Right.
This is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
So imagine our bakery merges with like a tech startup.
Wow.
It's developing a food delivery app.
Okay.
Totally unrelated businesses.
Right.
But they're coming together.
So why would they do that?
So this often happens when companies are trying to diversify, okay. Maybe mitigate some risk.
Right.
Especially in a volatile market.
Okay.
It's a little less common in the lower middle market.
Yeah.
But it does happen.
Okay, so we've got these different flavors of M&A happening in Cambodia, especially in the lower middle market.
Yeah.
But what is it that's actually driving these companies to
make these moves?
To make these moves,
Yeah.
To take the plunge.
So it really comes down to strategy and this desire for growth or maybe efficiency or even a smooth exit.
Okay.
One of the most common drivers is synergy. So companies merge to leverage each other's strengths.
Okay.
Maybe they can create some efficiencies, reduce costs.
Yeah.
It's like the classic peanut butter and jelly.
Okay.
Great on their own.
Yeah.
But way better together.
Okay, I'm with you.
Yeah.
So they're combining to make something stronger.
Exactly. Yeah.
What are some other reasons?
Okay, so sometimes it's all about growth.
Yeah.
A company might buy a competitor just to really expand their market share quickly.
Right.
Especially in a competitive market like Cambodia.
Yeah.
It's much faster to buy an existing business than to build one from scratch.
Yeah, that's true.
We also see M&A driven by supply chain considerations.
Oh, okay.
Especially now with all of the disruptions happening globally.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
So if you buy a supplier or a distributor, suddenly you have more control over your costs.
Right.
Potentially you can boost profits.
You're not at the mercy of anyone.
Exactly. You're taking control.
Yeah.
What about competition?
Yeah. Does competition ever play a role?
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
Sometimes a company will actually buy a rival just to kind of reduce that pressure and grab a bigger slice of the market.
So it's like an aggressive move.
It can be, yeah. And often it comes with a hefty price tag.
Right. You got to convince those shareholders to sell.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not always easy.
Okay. What about this idea of succession and retirement?
Yeah.
Because I know that the report mentioned that as a driver.
Yeah, and this is especially relevant for those family-owned businesses we talked about.
Yeah.
You know, in Cambodia, a lot of business owners might be looking to retire or pass the company on to the next generation.
Yeah.
So merging or selling to another company makes that transition really smooth.
Yeah, it's like legacy planning.
It's about legacy.
Okay.
It's not always just about, expanding aggressively.
Right. It's like thinking long term.
It is. It's about the long-term health of the business.
Yeah, I like that.
So thinking about your business, have you considered where M&A fits in?
Oh, that's a good question.
Are you in a position to be acquired?
Yeah.
Or are there maybe opportunities to expand through acquisition yourself?
Yeah.
Those are all things to think about.
Definitely, yeah.
Especially as Cambodia's M&A landscape continues to evolve.
It's like being proactive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, we've talked about the why.
Yeah.
Now I want to talk about the how.
Okay.
The process itself.
The M&A process.
Yeah. So this report breaks it down into these steps.
Yeah. It's a journey.
And I imagine it's not always smooth sailing.
It's definitely not always a straight line.
So what's the first thing that people need to know?
The first rule of M&A is due diligence.
Okay.
You got to do your homework, whether you're the buyer or the seller.
All right.
That means thorough research, financial analysis, legal reviews, really getting to know the other party.
Okay.
It's kind of like dating.
Okay.
But with spreadsheets and legal documents instead of romantic dinners.
Yeah. So you're making sure you're compatible.
Exactly.
Not just on paper, but like philosophically.
Yeah. Are your values aligned?
Yeah.
Do you have the same goals?
Are you going to be able to work together?
Exactly. And you need to look out for those red flags.
Yeah.
Anything that might signal trouble later on.
So what are some of those red flags?
So the report really cautions against rushing the process, especially for sellers.
Right.
Trying to close a deal too quickly can lead to poor preparation, which ultimately might mean a lower sale price.
Right. So it's like selling a house.
Exactly.
Without
fixing that leaky faucet.
Fixing the leaky faucet or disclosing
that crack in the foundation.
Yeah. You don't want any surprises.
No, you don't.
Okay. So we've got to be transparent.
Transparency is key.
Okay. What other pitfalls are out there?
So for buyers, it's really crucial to get a complete picture. Don't just rely on the legal documents.
Talk to employees, visit the facilities, understand the market.
So get a feel for it.
Yeah, you got to see the business in action.
It's like test driving a car before you buy it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Another common mistake
is
overlooking inconsistencies in the financials.
Okay.
Or accepting poor quality information during due diligence.
Right. Yeah.
You got to ask those tough questions.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to walk away.
Yeah, if something doesn't feel right.
If something feels off.
Yeah.
Trust your gut.
Okay, so it's not just numbers, it's feeling.
It's a feeling.
Yeah. All right, so to minimize all these risks, what does this report recommend?
So they strongly suggest doing a transaction readiness assessment.
Okay.
Especially for sellers, it's like a thorough health checkup for your business.
All right.
Making sure you're really prepared for the M&A process.
So it's like getting pre-approved for a mortgage.
Exactly. Yeah. Before you start house hunting, you're showing that you're serious.
You're serious. You're ready to go.
Okay.
And then for sellers who want to go the extra mile, there's this thing called vendor due diligence.
Okay.
And this is really about proactively identifying potential issues.
Okay.
And addressing them head on.
So it's like preemptively calling in the inspector.
Exactly.
Before you even list your house.
Just showcasing the business in the best light possible.
Yeah.
Minimizing any surprises.
Okay. So it sounds like preparation.
Preparation is key.
Is really the name of the game.
It is.
Okay.
You got to know your worth. You got to be transparent.
Yeah.
And you got to understand the risks and the rewards.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
So speaking of worth, let's talk about valuation.
Valuation.
How do you actually determine the value of a company?
Yeah. How do you put a price tag on it?
Especially with these lower middle market companies.
Right.
Where it just feels like there's so much subjectivity.
Yeah. There is an art to it. But it's not arbitrary.
Okay.
The key is to understand the difference between price and value.
Okay, so what's the difference?
So price is what you pay.
Okay.
Value is what you get.
Okay.
Price is influenced by market sentiment negotiation.
Mm-hmm.
But value, that's about the fundamentals of the business.
So it's like buying a used car.
Okay.
The sticker price might be negotiable.
Yeah.
But the value depends on its condition, the mileage.
Exactly.
Like how well it's been taken care of.
That's a great analogy.
Okay, so just like with cars, there are different ways to figure out the value of a business.
There are, yeah.
So this report talks about 3 main approaches.
Okay.
Market approach, income approach,
Mm-hmm.
and asset-based approach.
Yep, those are the big 3.
Okay, so let's break those down.
Right.
What's the market approach?
So the market approach is all about comparison.
Okay.
You're looking at similar companies that have been recently bought or sold.
So you're looking at the market.
You're looking at the market, yeah. It's like checking real estate listings
Okay.
to see what houses in your neighborhood are going for.
Gotcha. So you're trying to figure out what the going rate is.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, what about the income approach?
All right, so the income approach is a bit more forward-looking.
Okay.
You're analyzing the company's future cash flows.
So you're not looking at today, you're looking at tomorrow.
Yeah, you're trying to predict the future.
Yeah.
It's like you've got a fruit tree.
Okay.
You can estimate how much fruit it's going to produce.
Based on how healthy it is.
Exactly.
How much fruit it's making now.
Yeah, you're looking at its potential.
Okay, so it's all about potential.
Yeah.
Okay. And then what about this asset-based approach?
So the asset-based approach is pretty straightforward.
Okay.
You're basically looking at the value of all the company's assets.
So like taking inventory.
Yeah, like
Okay.
their buildings, equipment, inventory, all that
Okay.
good stuff.
Okay, so which approach is most common in Cambodia?
So in Vietnam and probably in Cambodia as well, they often use the discounted cash flow method,
Okay.
or DCF.
Okay.
And this falls under the income approach.
Right.
It's a way to look at a company's future earning potential,
Okay.
but it takes into account the time value of money.
Okay.
So basically, $1 today is worth more than $1 tomorrow.
Right.
And the DCF factors that in.
Time is money.
Time is money, exactly.
Okay. But this report also says that,
Yeah.
a company's financials might not tell the whole story.
Right. You got to dig a little deeper. Look beyond the numbers.
So what do you mean by that?
Especially in dynamic markets like Cambodia.
Okay.
Due diligence is so important.
All right.
It's like those home renovation shows where they find all these hidden problems.
Right. Like behind the walls.
Exactly. You got to be aware of those red flags
Yeah.
and make sure you're getting what you're paying for.
So it's not just about the numbers. It's about,
It's about the whole picture.
the whole picture.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. It's like M&A is this blend of intuition and investigation and financial analysis.
Right. And we're talking about Cambodia specifically.
Yeah.
Which is,
A dynamic market.
a really dynamic market. It's changing all the time.
Yeah, things are moving fast there.
Yeah. So as we kind of wrap up our deep dive here,
Yeah.
what should businesses in Cambodia be watching out for?
So one trend that's already happening
Right.
is this rise of digital technology.
Yeah.
So you're going to see more and more deals
Yeah.
that involve tech companies or businesses that are really using tech to grow.
So it's not just brick and mortar anymore.
Not anymore.
It's digital.
The digital world is a big player.
Yeah. And Cambodia is no exception.
No, definitely not.
Okay, so what else is going on?
Sustainability.
Okay.
This is becoming a major factor.
Okay.
So investors and buyers, they're looking for companies with, strong environmental, social, and governance practices.
So they're not just looking at the bottom line.
Not just the bottom line.
They're looking at the impact.
Yeah, doing good is good for business.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And thinking even bigger picture,
Yeah.
how might these geopolitical shifts, like, the evolving relationship between the U.S. and China,
Right.
how might that impact M&A in Cambodia?
Yeah, that's a really good question.
It's a complex issue.
Yeah, Cambodia is right in the middle of it.
It's like a chess game.
Yeah, for sure.
Every move has these ripple effects.
So we've talked about a lot today.
We have covered a lot of ground.
But I think the key takeaway
Yeah,
is that knowledge is power.
absolutely.
The more you know,
Yeah,
the better off you are.
the better decisions you can make
Right.
for your
Okay.
business.
So I really want to thank KPMG Cambodia Ltd.
Yeah,
for this report.
great report.
It was published in 2022, but like I said, I think it's still so relevant.
Absolutely.
LA.
Yeah, the insights are timeless.
Yeah, for sure. And
Yeah.
I really appreciate your expertise.
Oh, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
for everyone listening,
Yeah.
keep learning.
Stay curious.
And until next time, happy deal making.
Yeah, take care.
Thinking of exiting your business or taking on a private equity partner to help you grow faster? BizNexus has you covered. Tap into our network of thousands of best-fit investors, acquirers, and proven M&A advisors, and we'll help you begin the relationship confidentially on your terms, your timeline. Learn more at biznexus.com.